what true godliness entails. But because all such things are an empty shadow of religion, indeed they hardly deserve to be called a shadow at all, we must briefly speak of that special knowledge of God which is instilled only in the hearts of believers, and of the impulse to godliness which follows from it. To begin with, the believing heart does not haphazardly forge for itself some kind of God. Rather, it looks to him who is the true and only God. It does not ascribe to him whatever qualities it pleases, but is content to take him as he shows himself to be. It is always careful not to depart from God's will through headstrong pride. Knowing him thus, and understanding that he governs all things by his providence, it confidently accepts him as guardian and protector, and therefore entrusts itself to his keeping, since it knows him to be the author of all that is good. If beset by pressing need, it at once falls back on him for help, and after calling on him by name, it awaits his aid, for it is persuaded that he is both generous and kind. It relies with assurance on his compassion, never doubting that for every distress there will be a remedy furnished by his mercy. Since it acknowledges him as Lord and Father, it considers him to be worthy whose commands it obeys, whose majesty it reveres, whose glory it endeavors to promote, and whose will it follows. Since it perceives him to be a just judge, who one day will exact severe vengeance on all transgressors, it always has its sights set on God's judgment seat, so as to steer clear of whatever might provoke his wrath. Nevertheless, in thinking of its own judgment, it does not feel such dread as to want to avoid it, even supposing it had the means to escape. On the contrary, it is as ready to accept God as the chastiser of the wicked as it is to accept him as the rewarder of the good, because it knows that punishing the guilty and recompensing believers with eternal life belong equally to his glory. Furthermore, it is not mere fear of his vengeance which holds the heart back from sinning. It is because it loves and reveres him as its Father and fears him as its Lord. Even if hell did not exist, it would dread to offend him. That is what is meant by pure and true religion, namely faith joined with unfeigned fear of God, the word fear comprising both love for the righteousness which God has commanded in his law, and reverence, freely and wholeheartedly given for his majesty. So then, if we are all born on the understanding that we should know God, knowledge of him being empty and unfruitful if it fails to progress that far, it is obvious that all whose thoughts and actions in life are not directed to this goal fall short and fail to fulfill the order of their creation. That is something that was not unknown to the philosophers. It was what Plato meant when he taught a number of times that the soul's sovereign good is likeness to God, for when it truly attains to contemplation of him, it is completely transformed into him. Gryllus, too, argues most perceptively in Plutarch that if religion were removed from the life of men, not only would they cease to be superior to the brute beasts, but in many ways they would be much more miserable, since being prone to so many different ills, they would lead onerous and troubled lives. Thus, it is only the knowledge of God which makes them superior, and which allows them to aspire to immortality.